Welcome back, everyone. Guess what? The iPhone 13 Pro actually ended up coming out and being released to the public. And this was like 2 months ago already. The iPhone XS Max has been around for a couple of years now. So let's go and see how both of these phones kind of compare and see which one you should go and pick up. Now, if you have the money, definitely go for the 13 Pro. This is a much better phone in pretty much every single area, and it's the iPhone that's going to last the longest. But the XS Max is still supported with software. You can still pick it up in the used market in a ton of places. So let's go and see how both of them compare. If you want to pick up either one of these things, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, there is definitely a little bit of a difference between these two devices. With the iPhone XS Max, you have a beautiful, massive 6.5-inch XDR OLED panel, whatever they called it. And this is a very good panel. You had a notch. It's a pretty big phone, as you can see, and definitely in the hand, it definitely feels a little bit bigger, but it doesn't feel like it's, a crazy big phone. This was a massive phone when it came out, but these smaller iPhones have been getting bigger throughout the years. On the iPhone 13 Pro, you have a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel. It's a beautiful looking panel. I think visually they kind of look the same, but when you're using them, there's a big difference because the 13 Pro does have a Pro Motion display. So it refreshes at 120 hertz, and it's definitely smoother. You kind of get used to it throughout time, though, which is kind of funny, but definitely the 13 Pro is a smoother one when it comes down to it in terms of the panel. The notch is also a little smaller as well. In terms of the thinness and thickness, the XS Max actually seems like it's a little bit thinner. Actually, I can't really tell. I think maybe the XS Max slightly thinner, but they're kind of the same thing when it comes down to it. And on the back, we have a little bit of a different setup. So glass backs on both and camera setups, but we do have a frosted glass back on the back of the iPhone 13 Pro. You also have MagSafe wireless charging here, so you can use the MagSafe accessories. The iPhone XS Max has that standard glass back. So you have wireless charging, but you don't have that MagSafe capability. You do have a dual camera setup on the XS Max, a triple camera setup on the 13 Pro, and look at the massive differences in terms of the camera sensors themselves. There's a massive difference to how big these things are. It's crazy. Lighting ports at the bottom, power button on the outside, IP certification, everything like that on both of them, and that pretty much covers it up for the most part on the outside of both of them. Now, there's also a little bit of a difference in terms of software. So the big thing is the iPhone XS Max, as you guys know, came out in 2018, is not going to last forever. This phone is going to be supported for a couple more years. It came out in 2018, but it's not going to be lasting as long as something like an iPhone 13 Pro. I mean, this phone's going to be lasting for a long period of time. So you can pick up this thing today, and it's going to be lasting probably for a couple more years than the iPhone XS Max. So when it comes down to it, I would probably recommend looking into getting a 13 Pro at some point, but the XS Max is still supported and they're both ready to go for sure. So in terms of that covers it up in terms of longevity and software. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone XS Max has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 13 Pro has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigs of RAM. So let's go and see which one is a faster phone between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps are clear on the background as you guys can see, so let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing and not a big difference. Let's go and get into settings, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing here too, not a big difference. Let's go and get into their cameras, 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing too, swiping between these applications. I'm kind of seeing the same thing coming on both, which I think is a good thing. Clock, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 13 Pro definitely faster there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into photos, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro again is a faster one. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into mail, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro again is the faster one here. So we're seeing a consistent faster one, which is great to see. News, 3, 2, 1. And this one I kind of messed up at, so let me open it up here. And we'll load this one up in the background for RAM management. Stocks, 3, 2, 1. I think a little bit faster on the iPhone 13 Pro. Now we do have a bunch of these third-party applications we can go and get into, so let's get into it. Let's do Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. And I don't know why the XS Max didn't load that one up. Very annoying. Let's go and load that one out. Let's do Netflix, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro is faster, but the XS Max only slightly behind. So we're already seeing some pretty cool differences here. Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro definitely faster. iPhone XS Max a little bit behind. Gameplay-wise, let's see if there's a difference. And don't think there's really that big of a difference between the two. So let's go and hop out of this one. Let's go and get into Thank You, 3, 2, 1. And 13 Pro is faster. XS Max, again, a little bit behind. Nothing super crazy about that. Stack, 3, 2, 1. And actually, I think the 10s Max actually loaded the ad on that one faster, which was very strange. Fruit Ninja 3, 2, and I messed that one up, so we'll just kind of load this one up on the front page, load out of it like that. Facebook 3, 2, I don't have it here. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And this one was very, very close. I don't really know which one is faster here, to be honest. It looks like the 10s Max slightly opened that one up a little bit faster. So very, very interesting. We're kind of seeing some very similar performance between these two phones. I was honestly expecting a bigger difference when it came down to it. Now we do have Snapchat here. We can load up 3, 2, 1. I think that's a very old version of Snapchat, though. I was about to say that's like Snapchat plus plus. So I think ultimately what I can tell you is about the performance segment of both of these phones is that the iPhone 10s, the iPhone 13 Pro, I think, is the faster one. It's consistently more faster, which is good to see. You want a phone that's going to be faster than the other one, and with a newer phone than the iPhone 13 Pro, I'm expecting it to be faster than its predecessor. The iPhone 10s Max technically is a predecessor of it, and you want it to be faster. So when it comes down to it, I think the iPhone 13 Pro is faster, but the 10s Max is so close. I'm like so surprised how good of a performing phone the 10s Max is. I was not expecting it to be this similar between them. So when it comes down to it, 13 Pro is faster, but the 10s Max is only slightly behind of it. So in terms of that covers it up here. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. Now on the back, like I mentioned, triple camera setup with a LiDAR sensor on the 13 Pro, wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens, whatever order it is. On the iPhone 10s Max, you have a wide-angle lens and telephoto lens. Both can do 4K at 60 in that resolution, on both of them, so that's great. However, on the front, there's a little bit of a difference. The iPhone 10s Max can only do 1080p at 60 on the front of this camera, where the iPhone 13 Pro can actually do 4K at 60 on the front of this camera. So we're seeing a pretty big difference in terms of both, just in terms of that camera setup right there. Now, in my opinion, one of the big things to keep in mind with both of these camera sensors is that you are getting an additional camera lens on the iPhone 10s Max or on the iPhone 13 Pro. So you can zoom out a lot more on the iPhone, 13 Pro, where you can't really do it on the iPhone 10s Max. You still have that wide angle lens, which is great. You have the ability of zooming in a lot on the iPhone 10s Max, but you have that same ability on the iPhone 13 Pro. Actually, you can probably zoom in a little bit more on the iPhone 13 Pro. So you're seeing a little bit of a difference there. I think the bigger difference between these two are things like cinematic mode, that ultra wide sensor, 4K at 60 on the front. Those are some massive differences for sure. And I think I've already done a camera comparison between these two. I don't know when that's dropping, but I'll tell you when it comes down to the camera, between these two, both are great. The 10s Max is still pretty decent. If you have the money and you're trying to get the best camera for your, value right now, the iPhone 13 Pro is definitely by far the better way to go in that specific standpoint. So in terms of that covers it up in the camera. I'll drop a full camera comparison very soon. But that begs the question, which specific iPhone should you go and pick up? Is it worth picking up and spending the money on the iPhone 13 Pro, or should you still keep your iPhone 10s Max? Well, like I mentioned, if you have the money, going to the 13 Pro is definitely a really good option. You're getting better build quality, you're getting a way better display in my opinion with 120 Hz. You're getting a bit better battery life, which is massive. The battery test I did between these two is crazy, and that's dropping soon, but the iPhone 13 Pro is much better. Performance is slightly better, the cameras are much better. It's more expensive, but you're definitely getting what you pay for, I think, with the iPhone 13 Pro. But I'm going to be honest, the iPhone 10s Max, kind of surprised me. And I've been saying this with a lot of iPhones that I've been testing it against. The iPhone 10s Max is a bigger phone, so some of you may prefer that. You are getting really good performance on this thing still. You're still supported for several more years. This phone is much cheaper in the used market. The build quality is still good, not as good as the 13 Pro, but it's still pretty good. You have wireless charging. You have a lot of capabilities still on the 10s Max. It's not perfect, but I think it gets the job done for the most part, and I'm overall pretty happy with the iPhone 10s Max for sure. So in terms of that pretty much covers up everything here. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.